Everyone these days has a list of 10 books you must read before you die. Yeah, I've seen those too. And don't get me wrong, those videos are great. But I've always felt like something was missing. We don't really need 10 books that just sit on a shelf half-read. Sometimes, all it takes is one or two truly powerful books to completely change how we think, how we see the world, and even how we understand ourselves. So today, I'm not going to give you a long list. I'm going to talk about just two books that had a massive impact on my life and perspective.
Okay, guys, let's start cracking, shall we?
In that case, let's get to work.
Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari, and The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat by Oliver Sacks. Now, in my view, there are two main reasons why we read. The first is to gain knowledge, to understand how things work. And the second is to change perspective, to see the world in a way we never did before. And these two books, Sapiens and The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, do both these things beautifully. Book 1, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. Let's start with Sapiens. This book is a sweeping, fascinating journey through the entire history of our species, from primitive hunter-gatherers to modern humans living in skyscrapers and coding artificial intelligence. What makes Sapiens special isn't just the amount of knowledge it contains, it's the clarity with which Yuval Noah Harari explains it. He writes about history, biology, and anthropology in such a simple, engaging way that you don't need to be an academic to understand. It's like he's sitting next to you, calmly telling the story of us. The book covers some of the biggest turning points in human history: the cognitive revolution, when humans developed imagination and shared myths; the agricultural revolution, when we settled down and created societies; and the scientific revolution, which gave birth to the modern world. But what struck me the most, and the reason I always recommend Sapiens, is how it completely changed my understanding of religion. I saw religion mainly as a set of beliefs, good for some, bad for others, depending on how you looked at it. But Harari made me realize something much deeper: that religion is one of humanity's most powerful social inventions. In Sapiens, he explains that religion, along with concepts like money and nations, is part of what he calls imagined orders. These are shared beliefs that exist only because we collectively agree they do. Think about it. Money has value only because we all agree it does. A flag represents a country only because we believe it does. And religion binds millions of people together through shared stories, symbols, and rituals. I began to see that religion was never just about gods or heaven. It was about cooperation. It allowed huge groups of humans to work together under a common belief system. That cooperation built cities, empires, and civilizations. Of course, religion also caused conflict, wars, persecution, and the destruction of entire cultures. But the point Harari makes is that you can't simply dismiss religion as bad or good. It's part of our human evolution. It helped us survive, organize, and progress. And once you understand that, it's freeing. It's like seeing the man behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. The fear loses its power. Sapiens made me realize is how deeply tribal we still are. For almost all of human history, we lived in small tribes, 50 to 150 people at most. We knew everyone's face, name, and story, and our survival depended on loyalty to that tribe. Now fast forward to today. We live in massive cities and interact online with strangers across the globe.
RIP this, RIP that, pray for whoever.
Yet those tribal instincts are still there. We still form us versus them groups in politics, in sports, even in social media communities. That realization made me look at human conflict in a new light. It's not that people are inherently evil, it's that we're still carrying instincts from an ancient world. But here's the most hopeful part. Harari also shows that despite all this, humanity is getting better. When you scroll through the news, it's easy to believe the world is falling apart. But the truth is, compared to 100 years ago, things have dramatically improved.
What? Why? Why?
People live longer, child mortality is lower, more people have access to education, healthcare, and human rights. Yes, we have problems, but as a species, we've made incredible progress. Reading Sapiens helped me shift from cynicism to optimism. It reminded me that humanity is not doomed, we're evolving, slowly but surely, towards something better. So if you ever feel like the world is getting worse, Sapiens will show you the bigger picture, that the arc of human history, despite its darkness, bends toward improvement. And that idea completely changed how I saw it. It's not about believing or not believing, it's about understanding why belief itself is so powerful. I even found myself letting go of my fear of hell after reading Sapiens. When you trace how the concept of hell originated, as a way to control moral behavior through fear, you start to see it for what it really is. A story humans created to maintain order. Let's move on to the second book, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat by Oliver Sacks. I know the title sounds almost like a comedy, but don't be fooled. This book is one of the most moving and heartbreaking I've ever read. Oliver Sacks was a neurologist, and this book is a collection of real-life case studies of his patients, people living with strange and sometimes devastating neurological disorders. Each chapter reads like a short story, but every story is true. One patient can't recognize faces, not even his own wife's, which is where the title comes from. Another loses all sense of his own body. Someone else's memory resets every few minutes, like a tape recorder constantly rewinding itself. These stories are fascinating, but they're also deeply human. You're not just reading about the brain, you're reading about identity, love, fear, and what it means to be aware. Reading this book gave me a profound sense of respect for the brain, this 3-pound organ that controls every thought, emotion, and movement we have. Sacks doesn't just describe his patients' conditions, he treats them with incredible compassion. He doesn't see them as broken or defective, but as individuals living in alternate versions of reality. There's something beautiful about that perspective. It makes you realize how thin the line is between normal and abnormal. It also makes you appreciate how fragile consciousness is. A single neuron misfiring, a small lesion in the brain, and your entire sense of self can change. It's terrifying but also humbling. There's one story from the book that has stayed with me ever since I read it. It's about a man whose memory resets every single day. At the end of each day, everything he experiences, every conversation, every meal, every emotion is wiped clean. He wakes up the next morning believing he's still living in the past, unaware that years have gone by. Think about that for a moment.
Why?
You could fall in love, have a life-changing day, laugh with friends, and the next morning it's all gone. You start over, like a blank slate, every single day. That story broke my heart. But it also made me realize something powerful, how lucky we are. We take memory for granted, the ability to remember moments, people, and emotions. But memory is what makes us us. It connects our past to our present, gives meaning to our choices, and helps us grow. Reading that chapter made me stop and just feel grateful that I can remember my experiences, learn from my mistakes, and hold on to the people I love. That's why I say this book changes you. It doesn't just teach you science, it teaches you gratitude. I know there are thousands of amazing books out there, but if you're looking for books that truly shift your thinking, start with these two. Sapiens will change how you see humanity, how we evolved, what drives us, and why we believe what we do. The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat will change how you see yourself, how fragile, precious, and extraordinary the human mind really is.
Surface emoji.
Both books make you pause and reflect. They remind you that being human, with all our imperfections and contradictions, is still something miraculous. So forget the long top 10 lists for now. Just pick up these two. Because sometimes, 2 books are enough to open up a whole new dimension of understanding.
Funny story, Kent. It's the end of the world! God loves you! He's gonna kill you!
Thanks for watching, and if this video made you think, give it a like, share it with a friend who loves books, and subscribe for more conversations that explore the human mind and the world we live in.
Ah!